Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments below. Before we dive into this heart-pounding tale of courage and buried truths, hit that subscribe button so you never miss the most gripping dog stories we share every day. Now buckle up, because this one's going to grab you by the heart and not let go. What if the ground you walked on every day was hiding a secret so dark it could shatter a town's soul? In the sleepy Midwest hamlet of Langston Falls, one stubborn dog was about to claw open a mystery that had been buried for 35 years. A secret the church swore to keep silent, and one that would make you question everything you thought you knew about faith. It was a Sunday morning like any other in Langston Falls, the kind of place where the air smells of fresh-cut hay and the church bells hum louder than the gossip. Kids pedaled bikes down cracked sidewalks. Old men sipped coffee on sagging porches, and Officer Ryan Callahan, 13 years a cop, was halfway through a shift that promised nothing but boredom. Another quiet day, he muttered to himself, swirling the dregs of his gas station coffee. Beside him in the cruiser, Ranger, his gray-muzzled German Shepherd, let out a soft whine. Retired 2 years ago, after a decade sniffing out drugs and lost hikers, Ranger wasn't supposed to be on duty. He was there for the ride, for the companionship, for the way his cloudy eyes still lit up when Ryan scratched his ears. But that morning, something in those eyes wasn't just loyal, it was electric. The call came over the radio, crackling through the haze of routine noise complaint at St. Bridget's backlot. Probably kids messing around. Ryan rolled his eyes, teenagers always the usual suspects. Copy that, he said, steering the cruiser toward the church, St. Bridget's sat like a postcard under ancient maples, its red bricks glowing in the July sun, leaves whispering secrets nobody bothered to hear. The place looked holy, untouched, the kind of spot you'd confess your sins and feel lighter for it. But as Ryan pulled up, the air felt heavier than it should. No kids, no noise, just the hum of cicadas and the creak of an old parish fence. False alarm, he grumbled, stepping out. But Ranger had other plans. Before Ryan could grab the leash, the old dog bolted from the cruiser nose to the ground, tearing toward a patch of overgrown dirt behind the chapel's back door. "Ranger, get back here!" Ryan shouted, half annoyed, half curious. But Ranger wasn't listening. He was digging claws, ripping into the earth like he was chasing a ghost. His ears were pinned, his body taut, every scrape of his paws screaming urgency. Ryan's annoyance melted into unease. "What's gotten into you, boy?" he muttered, jogging over. This wasn't play. This was purpose. And then he saw it, a scrap of fabric black and white, peeking from the churned soil like a dirty secret. Ryan crouched, heart-thudding, and brushed the dirt away. It was old, faded with delicate stitching at the hem. A nun's habit. His breath caught. St. Bridget's hadn't had a convent since the early 90s. The nuns had left, or so the story went, reassigned to some far-off abbey. But this fabric wasn't just forgotten, it was buried. What the hell? Ryan whispered, his hand instinctively grazing his holster. Ranger kept digging, unearthing a rusted crucifix, then a lock of black hair matted and tangled in the dirt. Ryan's stomach twisted. This wasn't a prank. This was a grave. He radioed for backup voice, steady but pulse racing. Possible evidence behind St. Bridget's. Send forensics. The words felt wrong, like he was disturbing something sacred or something cursed. Neighbors started to gather, clutching coffee mugs, whispering. Old Mrs. Hensley squinted at the scene. "That dog of yours stirred up trouble, Ryan." He didn't answer, but her words stuck like a splinter. Trouble or truth? Father Doyle. The church's frail pastor shuffled out, leaning on a cane. "Officer Callahan." "What's all this?" His voice was soft, but his eyes darted to the fabric in Ryan's gloved hand. "Recognize this, Father?" Ryan asked, holding it up. Doyle blinked, slow as molasses. "Could be from the old convent. The sisters left in '90. His voice was too calm, too rehearsed. Ryan's gut screamed, "He's lying." They left quietly. Then Ryan pressed. Doyle's silence was louder than words. And then, plot twist, Ranger barked sharp and urgent 6 feet to the left. He was digging again, paws frantic, unearthing something new. A child's crucifix, Tiny and rusted, buried, not with the habit, but outside the church grounds, like someone had wanted it found. Ryan knelt heart-hammering and spotted a tin box beside it, half-eaten by time. Inside a torn hymn book page, ink fading but legible. They tried to protect me, but no one protects them. A child's handwriting uneven, desperate. Ryan's blood ran cold. Who was they? And who was me? He stood the note trembling in his hand and looked at Ranger, who stared back with those cloudy, knowing eyes. "You're on to something, aren't you, bud?" Ryan murmured. This wasn't just a cold case. This was a cover-up, one the church had buried deeper than the dirt Ranger clawed through. And now, with the crowd gathering and Father Doyle's face paling, Ryan knew one thing for sure. Langston Falls wasn't sleepy anymore. The ground was talking, and it had a story to tell. What happens when a dog's instinct cracks open a town's darkest secret? Will Ryan and Ranger uncover the truth? Or will the church's silence bury them too? Stay tuned for part 2, where the past comes screaming back to life. What do you do when the earth itself whispers a truth no one wants to hear? In Langston Falls, Officer Ryan Callahan and his retired K-9 partner Ranger had just clawed open a 35-year-old secret buried behind St. Bridget's Church. A nun's habit, a child's crucifix, and a note that screamed of betrayal. But if you think that was the end of the story, brace yourself. The ground wasn't done talking, and what it had to say would shake this sleepy town to its core. Langston Falls woke up uneasy the morning after Ranger's discovery. The air felt thick, like the town was holding its breath. Neighbors whispered over picket fences, their coffee cups trembling just a little. Ryan sat at the station, the child's note. "They tried to protect me, but no one protects them," burning a hole in his desk. Who was this kid? And why had the church buried their cry for help? Ranger sprawled by his feet, twitched in his sleep, paws digging at dreams. "You're not letting this go, are you, boy?" Ryan murmured. Neither was he. He started with the church record's yellowed pages from the late 80s that smelled of dust and denial. The last entry about the nun sisters, Margaret, Lucia, and Anne, said they'd been reassigned to St. Gabriel's Abbey in June '90. Ryan called the Abbey. No record of them, the clerk said, voice clipped. Never arrived. His gut churned. Someone lied. He dug deeper, pulling a faded complaint from the town archives. June 17, 1990, screams and chanting heard behind St. Bridget's after dark. Marked resolved. No follow-up. "Resolved my ass," Ryan muttered, slamming the file shut. The town was buzzing now, and not in a good way. Old men in ball caps shot Ryan dirty looks at the diner. "You stirring up ghosts?" Callahan one growled. Even his mom called voice tight. "Ryan, you sure you want to poke at the church?" He didn't answer. He wasn't poking, he was tearing the veil off. Ranger led him back to St. Bridget's that afternoon, tail stiff, nose low, like he was chasing a scent only he could smell. The dog stopped at an old bench by the statue of St. Michael, pawing at the gravel. Ryan noticed a crack in the chapel's foundation, barely visible behind ivy. He knelt, heart racing, and felt cold air seeping through. "There's something behind this." He called in a county engineer and 2 contractors who owed him a favor. By dusk, they'd uncovered a sealed door, arched and ancient, hidden in the stone. Probably a crypt, the engineer said. Or something nobody wanted found, Ryan shot back. They pried it open, and the smell hit like a punch, musty metallic, like time had rusted shut. Inside, a chamber, 20 by 30 feet, with a dirt floor and a single wooden table. 4 candles unlit stood like sentinels. Shelves held jars and holy books, but the real horror was on the right, a rusted metal cot leather restraints dangling from its corners. Ryan's throat tightened. "What kind of holy place needs this?" he whispered. Ranger growled, backing away. Even the dog knew this wasn't right. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. The chamber felt alive in his mind, its shadows whispering questions. He lit a cigarette, his second in 3 years, and stared at the child's crucifix on his table. The station's evidence board was growing photos of the habit, the hair, the note. But it was the chamber that haunted him. Why hide a room like that? Unless it wasn't for prayer. Unless it was for punishment. He needed answers, and Father Doyle, the church's aging pastor, was the key. Ryan found him at St. Anthony's Hospital, looking like a ghost in a hospital gown. "You lied." Ryan said no preamble. Doyle's eyes flickered. "I didn't know," he croaked. "Bullshit," Ryan snapped. "You knew about the nuns. You knew about the girl." And then, plot twist, Doyle's voice broke not with denial, but confession. "Her name was Lena," he whispered. "She was feral. 12 maybe. No family. They said she was possessed." Ryan leaned in, pulse hammering. "Who's they?" Doyle's eyes glistened. "The bishop. His men. The nuns, Margaret, Lucia, Anne, they tried to stop it. Said she needed a doctor, not an exorcism. But the bishop ordered it done. In that cellar." Ryan's blood ran cold. And then Doyle looked away. "The nuns went in with her. Only one came out. Not Lena. Sister Anne. But then, she was gone too." Ryan staggered back to his cruiser Ranger, waiting inside, eyes locked on him like he knew the weight of those words. An exorcism, or something worse. The pieces were falling together, but they were jagged ugly. The nuns hadn't just vanished, they'd been silenced. And Lena, she was the key, a girl who'd either been cursed or betrayed. He drove to Sunset Oaks, where Ruby Alvarez, the old convent housekeeper, sat knitting under a lemon tree mural. "You knew about Lena," Ryan said softly. Ruby's hands froze. "Sister Anne told me," she rasped. "Said Lena wasn't possessed. Just scared. Abused." The nuns wanted to report it, but the bishop's men came at night. Dark sedan, no plates. After that, the sisters were gone. Ryan's hands shook as he jotted it down. Abuse, not possession. A cover-up, not a miracle. He went to the library, pulling microfilm from the Langston Gazette. A tiny article from July 1990 caught his eye. "Church to seal garden for prayerful regrowth." Prayerful, my foot, he thought. They'd sealed more than a garden, they'd sealed a crime scene. Back at home, Ranger was restless, pacing to the hallway closet and scratching. Ryan frowned, opened it, and tapped the floorboards. Hollow. He pried one up, heart-pounding, and found a hidden folder. Inside, a single typed page. They said, "I was cursed. I was just scared. The sisters tried to help me. They died for it. I'm sorry, Lena." He froze. Who hid this? And how did it end up in his house? The words burned into him, Lena's pain bleeding through the page. This wasn't just a case anymore, it was a plea from the past, clawing its way to the present. Ranger barked sharp and urgent, like he was saying, "Keep going." Ryan nodded, jaw tight. "We're not done, boy. What happens when a town's faith hides a sin too big to forgive? Will Ryan find Lena, or will the church's secrets bury him first? Stay tuned for part 3, where the truth breaks free and someone pays the price. Can a single truth unravel a town's faith, or does it take a dog's heart to break the silence? In Langston Falls, Officer Ryan Callahan and his retired canine partner Ranger had torn open a 35-year-old wound behind St. Bridget's Church. A buried nun's habit, a child's desperate note, and a hidden cellar pointed to a chilling cover-up. 3 nuns, Margaret, Lucia, and Anne, murdered for protecting a girl named Lena from a so-called exorcism. Now, with a mysterious letter found in Ryan's own home, the past was screaming louder than ever. But the truth. It was about to hit harder than a Midwest storm. The note in Ryan's closet. "They said I was cursed. I was just scared. The sisters tried to help me. They died for it. I'm sorry Lena kept him awake all night." Who hid it there, and why his house ranger lay by the fireplace, eyes glinting in the dark like he knew something Ryan didn't. "You're one step ahead, aren't you, boy?" Ryan muttered, rubbing his temples. The station's evidence board was a mess of photos, maps, and red string, the habit the seller Father Doyle's confession about Lena. But this note felt personal, like someone was watching him dig. He needed answers, and he needed them now. Ryan started with the state archives, pulling every record tied to St. Bridget's and Bishop Conrad Halbridge. The man, Father Doyle said, ordered the exorcism. The bishop, dead since '98, had a trail of shadows transfers of orphaned girls to convents across the Midwest. Some adopted, some vanished. One file marked confidential listed a female-est teen, referred to as Lena, sent to St. Bridget's in 1989. No last name, no birth date, just transferred under Halbridge's supervision. Ryan's fist clenched. They erased her. He found another lead, a 2001 anonymous claim of ritual abuse at a Wisconsin retreat tied to Halbridge. The case was dropped, but it was a crack in the church's armor. Back at St. Bridget's, the churchyard was a crime scene, now roped off with forensic tape. The town was fracturing. Parishioners skipped Mass. Kids stopped biking past the chapel, and whispers turned to shouts at the diner. "You're tearing us apart!" "Callahan," an old farmer spat. Ryan ignored him, but the weight was heavy. Even his mom left a voicemail. Ryan let the dead rest. But the dead weren't resting, they were begging to be heard. Ranger led him to the old convent wing shut down since the 2000s. The dog scratched at a wall panel under a faded painting of St. Catherine. Ryan's pulse quickened. He pried it open with a multi-tool, revealing a leather satchel tied with a rosary. Inside, a stack of letters, all in Sister Anne's handwriting, dated May to June 1980. He read by flashlight, heart pounding. Anne wrote of Lena's arrival, thin, silent, with coal-black hair and eyes that held too much pain. "She's no demon," Anne wrote. "She's a child abused maybe by someone in the church. We must report this." The final letter was frantic. "They're coming for us," Margaret screamed. Lucia ran. "I'm hiding these in the wall. If you find them, tell the world we didn't leave." Ryan's eyes burned. The nuns had died protecting Lena, and someone, Doyle Halbridge or worse, had made sure they stayed silent. He needed a living witness. Ruby Alvarez, the old housekeeper, was his best shot. At Sunset Oaks, she sat under the lemon tree mural knitting slower than before. "You found Anne's letters," Ruby said before he could speak. Her eyes were misty. "She told me to keep quiet, or I'd lose everything. Excommunication. My family." Ryan leaned in. Who was Lena running from? Ruby's voice dropped. "Men in suits, not priests. They came after midnight, no names, no plates. The bishop's enforcers." Lena said one grabbed her arm so hard it bruised. Called her cursed. Ryan's jaw tightened. And the nuns, Ruby looked away. They fought for her. Then they were gone. The pieces were snapping together, but the puzzle was bigger than St. Bridget's. Ryan called a retired librarian, Clara Hensley, who'd hinted at knowing more. She met him at the library, her hands trembling. "There was a girl," Clara whispered. "Summer of '90. I saw her in the orchard hiding. Sister Anne was with her whispering to stay quiet. I never told anyone. Father Doyle said it was church business." Ryan's voice was low. "Did she say her name?" Clara nodded. "Lena. She looked like she'd seen hell itself." And then plot twist. Clara reached into her purse and pulled out a faded photo, edges curled. It showed a young girl, maybe 12, with dark hair and haunted eyes, standing by the orchard. "I took this that night," Clara said. "I don't know why I kept it." Ryan stared, heart racing. Lena wasn't just a name anymore. She was real, a face staring back from 35 years ago. But the photo held something else in the background, barely visible, a man in a dark suit watching from the shadows. Ryan's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a local cover-up. Someone bigger was pulling strings. He went back to the station, the photo pinned to the evidence board. Ranger paced, growling softly, like he sensed the danger closing in. Ryan's phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or you'll end up like them." His hand froze. Who knew he was this close? He looked at Ranger, whose ears were up, eyes locked on the door. "We're in deep, boy," Ryan whispered. The dog barked once sharp, like he was saying, "Keep going." Ryan nodded, resolve hardening. Lena was out there, and he'd find her no matter who was watching. This wasn't just about 3 nuns anymore. It was about a girl who'd been erased, a church that hid monsters, and a town that let them. The truth was afire now, and Ryan was ready to burn it all down to get to Lena. But as he stared at that photo, one question gnawed at him. Who was the man in the shadows, and how far would he go to keep the past buried? What happens when the truth you chase starts chasing you back? Will Ryan find Lena before the shadows find him? Stay tuned for part 4, where the past catches up and someone pays the ultimate price. What do you do when the truth you're chasing starts hunting you back? In Langston Falls, Officer Ryan Callahan and his loyal canine partner Ranger had ripped open a 35-year-old secret buried behind St. Bridget's Church. 3 nuns murdered a girl named Lena, erased, and a chilling cover-up tied to a hidden cellar. A faded photo and a threatening text had just turned the case personal, with a shadowy figure watching Ryan's every move. Now the past was closing in, and the truth was about to demand its price. The text, "Stop digging, or you'll end up like them," sat like a stone in Ryan's gut. He stared at the photo Clara had given him, Lena's haunted eyes staring back, and that man in the shadows, barely a silhouette, but heavy with menace. Ranger paced by the station's evidence board, tail twitching like he could smell the danger in the air. "We're too close to stop, boy," Ryan whispered, but his voice shook. Someone knew he was unraveling their lies, and they weren't just watching, they were warning. Ryan started with the photo, scanning it into the database, hoping for a match on the man in the background. No hits, but the archives gave him something else, a 1990 transfer order signed by Bishop Conrad Halbridge, sending Lena to St. Bridget's for spiritual care. The word made Ryan's skin crawl. He dug deeper, finding a pattern other girls unnamed shuffled through Halbridge's network of convents, some vanishing like ghosts. One name kept popping up, Father Michael Vance, a young priest in 1990, now retired in Milwaukee. Ryan's gut screamed, he's the man in the shadows. He drove to Milwaukee Ranger in the passenger seat, eyes sharp despite his gray muzzle. The care home smelled of antiseptic and regret. Vance was frail hands trembling over a rosary, but his eyes were cagey. "I don't know any Lena," he said too quickly. Ryan slid the photo across the table. "Then who's this father watching her in the orchard?" Vance's face paled. "You don't understand," he stammered. "The bishop said she was dangerous. Possessed. We were saving her soul." Ryan leaned in, voice low. "You buried her truth. And the nuns who tried to save her? They're dead." Vance's rosary hit the floor. "I didn't kill them," he whispered. "But I didn't stop it." Ryan pressed harder. Who did Vance's voice cracked? "Halbridge's enforcers. 2 men, not clergy. They came at night. Said the nuns were defying God's will." Ryan's heart pounded. And Lena Vance looked away. She escaped. Anne hid her. But they found Anne. Ryan left the confession burning in his ears. Back in Langston Falls, the town was unraveling. St. Bridget's was empty, its pews gathering dust. Locals avoided Ryan's eyes, but whispers followed him. "He's gone too far." His mom left another voicemail. "Ryan, you're breaking us." But he couldn't stop, not with Lena still out there. He tracked a lead from the archives, a 2008 intake form from a Milwaukee women's shelter, listing a Lena M. with severe religious trauma. The shelter's retired director, Margaret Fields, remembered her. "Quiet smart, always looking over her shoulder," she said over the phone. Left for Oregon, said she had a friend there. Ryan packed a bag, Ranger's leash in hand. "We're finding her boy." 2 days later, he stood outside in Clover Bakery in Eugene, Oregon, the air thick with cinnamon and hope. Behind the counter, a woman with dark hair and sharp eyes poured coffee. Ryan knew her instantly. "Lena," he said softly. Badge visible. Her smile froze, eyes flicking to the door like she might run. They sat outside away from the morning rush. Lena's hands gripped her mug knuckles white. "I thought they'd find me first," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "The sisters, Anne especially, hid me in the orchard that night. Told me to stay quiet. I heard screams, then nothing." Ryan's throat tightened. "They died for you." Lena's eyes welled. "I know. They saw I wasn't cursed, just scared. Abused. The church called it possession to cover it up." Ryan nodded. "Who hurt you?" She shook her head. "A man. Not a priest. He came with Hallbridge's orders. I never knew his name. And then plot twist. Lena reached into her apron, pulling out a small worn journal. Anne gave me this before she hid me, she said. It's hers. Ryan opened it, hands trembling. The pages detailed the nuns' plan to expose Hallbridge's network of abuse, naming shelters across the Midwest where girls like Lena were sent. The final entry read, "If I die, find Lena. She's the proof." Tucked inside was a key engraved with SB Crypt. Ryan's breath caught. There was another hiding place at St. Bridget's, one they hadn't found. Back in Langston Falls, Ryan and Ranger returned to the church under cover of night. The key fit a locked panel in the cellar, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside a box of documents, letters, photos, and a list of names, girls' dates, convents. Hallbridge's network exposed. Ryan's heart raced. This wasn't just about Lena, it was a reckoning. He called the DA, and within days, the diocese faced a formal investigation. Lena gave an anonymous deposition, her voice shaking but strong. The town held a memorial for sisters Margaret Lucia and Anne, a plaque in the church garden reading "For their bravery, June 17, 1990. Never forgotten. Ranger stood proud, a tiny Justice Hound medal pinned to his collar. Kids snapped photos, and Ryan scratched his ears. "Good boy," he whispered. "You started this." That night, Ryan sat on his porch, Sister Anne's journal in his lap. The final line haunted him. "Tell the world we didn't leave." He looked at Ranger sleeping peacefully and whispered, "We told them, sister. Langston Falls would never be the same. But maybe that was the point. Truth doesn't just break silence. It builds something new." What happens when the past demands justice, and one dog refuses to let it go? The story of St. Bridget's is over, but the fight for truth never is. Could there be more secrets waiting? Drop your thoughts below and stay tuned for more tales of heroes with 4 paws. When the truth finally breaks free, does it heal a town or haunt it forever in Langston Falls? Officer Ryan Callahan and his retired canine partner Ranger had unearthed a 35-year-old conspiracy behind St. Bridget's Church. 3 nuns murdered a girl named Lena silenced, and a bishop's dark network exposed. A hidden journal and a secret cache of documents had brought justice. But as Ryan sat on his porch, Sister Anne's words echoed. "Tell the world we didn't leave." The world knew now, but was the story really over? Buckle up, because the past has one last secret to spill, and it's a shocker. The memorial plaque for Sisters Margaret Lucia and Anne gleamed in St. Bridget's garden, a quiet testament to their courage. Langston Falls was different now. Mass was sparse. The church's red bricks seemed to sag, and the townsfolk whispered less about gossip and more about guilt. Ryan leaned against his cruiser, watching kids snap photos with Ranger, whose Justice Hound medal glinted in the sun. "You're a hero, boy," he said, scratching the old dog's ears. But Ranger's tail twitched, eyes fixed on the orchard beyond the church, like he wasn't ready to rest. Ryan's gut twisted. "What are you still chasing, bud?" The diocese investigation was in full swing, with Lena's anonymous deposition and Sister Anne's journal fueling reopened cases across the Midwest. Ryan's evidence, Hallbridge's transfer orders, the list of vanished girls, had cracked open a network of abuse hidden under the guise of spiritual care. But one name from the documents nagged at him, Father Michael Vance, the retired priest who'd confessed to knowing about Lena's exorcism. Vance had claimed he didn't kill the nuns, but his trembling hands and cagey eyes told Ryan he was holding back. "Time to finish this," Ryan muttered, grabbing Ranger's leash. He drove back to Milwaukee, the care home's antiseptic smell hitting him like a memory. Vance was in the garden, rosary in hand, looking smaller than before. "You didn't tell me everything," Ryan said, voice sharp. He slid a copy of the journal's list across the table, names, dates, convents. "Your name's here, Father. You weren't just a bystander." Vance's face crumpled. "I was young," he whispered. "Hallbridge said it was God's work. The girls, they were troubled. I believed him." Ryan's jaw tightened. "You believed a lie that killed 3 women." Vance's eyes welled. Not just 3, he said, voice breaking. There was another. Ryan froze. What? Vance looked down. A 4th sister. Sister Clara. She wasn't in the records, but she was there that night. Tried to stop the men in suits. They took her too. Ryan's heart pounded. A 4th nun. The documents hadn't mentioned her. He raced back to Langston Falls, pulling every archive he could find. A faded parish photo from 1989 showed 4 nuns, Margaret Lucia Ann, and a younger woman, Clara, smiling softly. No transfer records, no obituary, just gone. They erased her too. Ranger was restless that night, pacing by the porch door, growling at shadows. Ryan followed him to the orchard, flashlight in hand. The dog stopped at a gnarled apple tree, paws digging frantically. Ryan joined in, dirt flying until his shovel hit something hard. A small metal box rusted shut, inside a locket and a note in unfamiliar handwriting. Clara, forgive me. I couldn't save you. L. Ryan's breath hitched. Lena. He opened the locket, revealing a tiny photo of a young nun, Clara, the forgotten sister. Ranger whined, nose nudging the box like he was saying, keep going. And then plot twist. Ryan's phone buzzed with another text from an unknown number. You found Clara. Now find me. His blood ran cold. Lena was in Oregon, safe at her bakery. Or was she? He called in Clover Bakery, heart racing. The line was dead. He sped to Eugene, Ranger in tow, and found the bakery dark, a closed sign on the door. A neighbor said Lena had left days ago, no word on where. Ryan's hands shook as he dialed the DA, reporting Lena missing. But then he noticed something on the bakery counter through the window. A journal opened to a new page with a single line, I'm not running anymore. Find the truth in Wisconsin. Ryan followed the lead to a women's shelter in Madison, Wisconsin, where Lena had stayed in 2005. The director, Margaret Fields, handed him a letter Lena had left years ago. She wrote this after a nightmare, Margaret said. Said it was for someone named Clara. The letter read, Sister Clara, you sang to me when I was scared. I heard you scream that night. I'm sorry I ran. Ryan's eyes burned. Clara wasn't just a nun, she'd been Lena's protector, a forgotten hero. He tracked a final lead to a shuttered retreat in Grant County, once run by Halbridge's Circle. There, in a dusty attic, he found a file, Sister Clara deceased, 1990, accidental fall. No autopsy, no investigation. Another cover-up. The truth hit Langston Falls like a thunderclap. Ryan shared Clara's story at a town meeting, her locket projected on a screen. The crowd was silent, then sobbing. A second plaque went up beside the first honoring Sister Clara. Lena resurfaced days later, calling Ryan from a payphone. I had to disappear, she said. They're still out there, Halbridge's men. Ryan's voice was steady. You're not alone anymore. Lena returned, testifying publicly, her voice breaking but unbroken. The diocese faced federal scrutiny, and Vance turned state's evidence naming names. Ryan sat on his porch, Ranger at his feet, the night air soft with cicadas. He held Clara's locket, whispering, We found you, sister. The town was healing slowly, its faith shaken, but its heart stronger. Ranger's nose twitched, chasing dreams, and Ryan smiled. You started it all, boy. Truth wasn't just a weapon, it was a promise kept. What would you do if a dog's courage uncovered a truth that changed everything? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if Ranger's story moved you, hit subscribe for more tales of heroes with paws. Let's keep the truth alive together.